Hello, and welcome to this new series of mine that I'd like to call Unscripted, Uncut. And the idea of this series is that I like to talk about stuff unscripted, so I'm not allowed to read off anything, and uncut, where I'm not allowed to cut at any point. This is probably going to be hard because usually I like reading off scripts, but the reason why I came up with this series is because, well, first of all, I wouldn't have enough time to do a proper script, and then like the editing process. I cut a lot of stuff. Believe me, there's a lot of stuff that I would cut out normally. Whether it's like stuttering or long pauses. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this one turns out. So, all right. First thing we're gonna talk about in this series is Spider-Man: No Way Home. I really like the film. I think it is absolutely cool, but it's actually really amazing, unlike The Amazing Spider Man and The Amazing Spider Man 2, which I think are really bad. And all the returning villains, they're cool. I'll probably talk about them later in the video. Uh, Okay, so at this point, I'm just gonna like talk about spoilers. I'll probably put like a spoiler warning in the title, but I'm just gonna say from this point on, there's gonna be spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film, which I really recommend you see right now because I absolutely love it. Um, yeah, please, don't keep watching. So yeah, I'll give you three, two, one. Toby Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in the movie. Was it a surprise? No, it was not. Am I happy they were in it? Absolutely. Um, like I knew, if you've seen any of the leaked images that were by the guy that was working close, with the film, um, then that they were gonna be in it. I just didn't know when, because looking at the leak, there was like no context to what was going on. So yeah, it was just a matter of like when they're gonna show up, not a case of if. And I'm happy. I'm happy they're in it. Um, I I was surprised to know that Andrew Garfield was really good in this film. And ironically enough, it's the best Spider Man film that featured Andrew Garfield. And he was even good enough in his own solo films. Um, which is weird because Andrew Garfield is probably the better actor out of Tom Holland and Toby Maguire. I mean, it's not really fair on Tom Holland because he's only, in his mid to late 20s, like for an actor that's like he's still young. Uh, and obviously Toby Maguire, he was in a few good things, but honestly, like his legacy is Spider Man. Like no matter what he does, and I feel like with Andrew Garfield, after Spider Man, like he's just gone on to star in like better films. So yeah, uh, yeah, he was really good. Um, not, and he was like really funny. And Toby Maguire, what can I say about Toby Maguire? He's just as good as he's been in the Sam Raimi films in his own trilogy. Um, he didn't have to prove anything really, Toby, um, because obviously his trilogy was like so well received. Um, like I wasn't sure like on my first viewing about an old Toby Maguire, how he is now, being brought over. Like I was thinking maybe they could have CG'd his face to make him look like how he did in 2007, but then I realized like it was a much better choice having him look as old as he did, which is how his natural look Toby Maguire's is now. gives him that kind of wise look about him, because he'd almost be like, you know, a mentor to like the other two Spider-Men, especially to Tom Holland's, who, you know, despite all he's been through, like he's fought like Thanos on another planet. Like he was with like members of the Avengers. He's with Guardians of the Galaxy. So like, you know, he knows what it's like to be on a team. But at the same time, he still has a lot to learn. Like he's still the least experienced, and he never had to go through any hardships like what Toby and Andrew had to go through. Um, with the exception of maybe, you know, losing Tony Stark, his mentor, and I mean the fact that he was basically gone for 5 years. I mean that must have been very bad, but still, um, yeah, the banter between all three Spider Men. I thought like it was so funny, you know, like when they were on the when they're at the Statue of Liberty waiting for like all the villains. Uh, the banter like, you know, between the three, like about the, you know, the web fluids, and they want to all know like where Toby Maguire's web was coming from. Like, you know, that was really cool. Um, and then obviously how they're talking about like how like Toby and Tom like fought like aliens, and Andrew like was just jealous because he never fought any aliens. Like like the weirdest villain he fought was like the the Russian guy in the mecha rhino suit, which like yeah, that was really cool. Um, it's so weird. Like it's those kind of movies like you wouldn't think it would exist, and yet somehow it did. Like you just can't believe it exists. Now, are there better MCU movies? Yeah, of course there are. But I'd say it's probably in my top 10. Um, you have to watch it in the same way, you know, you would for something like Infinity War or Endgame, where watching it by itself without the context of, you know, the previous films that came in the universe, like you're obviously you'd be confused by what's going on. But yeah, like No Way Home is kind of like that. You can't really enjoy it, you know, in the same way you would for like any other like standalone film. Um, what else is there? Oh yeah, might as well say it before I forget. Matt Murdock, Daredevil. Well, he's not really Daredevil in this, but he shows up for like a quick little cameo for like well, like just to be like a lawyer, because obviously Spider Man has his had his identity revealed at the end of Far From Home, and that carries over into this movie. So basically, Tom Tom Holland's, like, I'm just gonna call him Tom Holland, you know, just to, you know, be sure, you know, because if I say Peter Parker, they're like two other Peter Parkers. So yeah, Tom Holland is looking for a lawyer to prove his case that he didn't kill Mysterio, and yeah, while they don't have proper like evidence, you know, to say that he killed Mysterio, they're still gonna investigate it further. And Matt Murdock's just like, he just shows up and he's just like, you're gonna need a better lawyer. Uh, I mean, yeah, still, it was cool seeing him there, but it was just very unnecessary, really, to be honest. Uh, yeah, the villains. There are five of them. Five villains. Wow. It seems to be a tradition for a Spider Man series to have so many villains, and they're even at the point now where they're literally taking villains from other Spider Man universes, because Marvel cannot, or most of the time, they cannot make good villains on their own. So they're just taken from other universes. It's so funny, like how, you know, that works. Um, Okay, let's start with the best one. Willem Dafoe, probably the best villain of all time in any um, in any superhero film. Like I know there's Heath Ledger's Joker and there's obviously Thanos, but I have to say like Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn, like he just pushes like Tom Holland Spider Man in the same way he does to uh, Toby Maguire Spider Man in the first Spider Man, the first Sam Raimi Spider Man film that is. Don't want to mix it up. Uh, and the fact that like you know the Goblin completely takes over from Norman after basically Norman wants to be cured of like his goblin disease. Well, it's not disease, but like his goblin powers. Uh, and same goes for like the other villains. They were gonna be treated by Tom Holland, um, as so like Norman kind of helps out with Tom. Uh, so yeah, Goblin takes over from Norman, and you know, so like they couldn't really get to cure him, and as a result, the big fight, like in like the apartment building of that belonged to Happy Hogan, like yeah, yeah, John Favreau. Um, yeah, it was so cool. It was like it had that fight and the final battle down at the Statue of Liberty. Like Tom Holland's fight with Green Goblin was absolutely cool. Like it was so brutal. It was, you swear, like yeah, they were both brutal, but more specifically the final battle. Like it was so, like he goes in hard on Green Goblin, and wow, like I mean, Green Goblin was just like, you don't have the guts to kill me, and then Tom Holland's like, no, I'm gonna kill you because you killed Aunt May. It's the exact revenge, and then he was just like he just was about to kill him with the glider, and then Toby Maguire's Spider Man just comes in and just stops Tom Holland from killing him, and then Toby gets stabbed, but he kind of just shakes it off. He's like, I've been stabbed before. This is nothing. Um, so yeah, um, yeah, oh, he doesn't die. Yeah, yeah. Oh, there's just so much to talk about. I'm probably gonna leave out like a lot of things in this video, but I'll try and be quick. Like Doc Ock, the other villain, Alfred Molina, like he enjoys being like the enjoys being well, what's his name, Otto Octavius. Like it's kind of weird how like they laugh at his name. Like yeah, it's a weird name, but like, is it really that weird compared to like everything else like that universe had experienced? Uh, what else is there? Um, oh yeah, Jamie Foxx, Electro. Um, yeah, Jamie Foxx. I mean, it's a massive improvement over the Amazing Spider-Man 2. He's no longer blue. He's no longer a Doctor Manhattan wannabe. Uh, he is basically Electro, and he's not covered. But he still has electricity, but still, like he's not completely covered in it. You wouldn't be able to tell. Um, I like how he uses like one of like the arc reactors as like a unlimited source of electricity. Like that's really cool. And also like the nanotech going on to Doc Ock's arms, like his tentacles. Um, that looked so cool. Like I like how those old villains are using like the technology from like the MCU onto themselves. Like it only really applies to those two in particular. Like the other villains, whatever. Lizard, Sandman, they're just there, I suppose. um, just being them. They didn't want to be on set. They were just mostly there for voiceover, and whenever they did appear, like in their human form, at the end when they get cured, um, yeah, it's just basically like archive footage. Like it's weird because, um, I mean, I get why Thomas Hayden Church wouldn't want to come back. I mean, even if he wanted to, like he'd look way too old. Like he's aged a lot in 14 years. So there's that. But Rhys Ifans for the Lizard, like, I mean, come on, like I felt like he could have come back really, but whatever, the hearing like the villains from like the different universes like just talking to each other, like that was funny enough. Like it's such an interesting film, and I liked it so much that I saw it twice in the cinema. No, I'm not one to say I prefer cinemas over watching a film at home, watching on Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon, whatever, because I prefer doing it here. Um, that says a lot. Why not go see a film in the cinema twice? Um, what else am I missing? Um, yeah, I think. I mean that's pretty much it. Like that's yeah, the ending. Now, it's very bittersweet because obviously like the whole reason for these villains coming together was because of a botched spell that Doctor Strange did, where like the spell was have everyone forget that Tom Holland is Spider-Man, and it gets ruined because Tom is just like, no, I want everyone but Ned, or and then he's like, oh, I want everyone but Ned, and then MJ, and then like, it goes on and so forth, and the spell like just gets ruined because that's how the villains got together, um, and the only way then they could all be returned is when they have the like Doctor Strange makes like a box that has like the spell in it, and then using that box would send people back, but then Green Goblin bombs it in the final battle, and basically the whole spell just kind of begins to unleash, and then more villains. Well, you don't really see them, but like they come from like a different portal or whatever. Um, yeah, they try to get through, and then obviously Doctor Strange couldn't do anything about it unless, of course, Peter decides to basically sacrifice himself. Not like kill himself. Well, kill himself in like a metaphorical sense, whereby, um, whereby have everyone forget that he's Peter Parker, and they're basically like no one knows who he is anymore, like including all his ties like with Doctor Strange, the other superheroes. Everyone in the universe wouldn't know who Tom Holland is anymore, um, including his friends and all that. And that's really sad. And then he tries to, um, like once the spell does happen, that everyone forgets that he's Peter Parker. Um, he tries to go to the coffee shop that MJ was working at, and Ned was also there, but they don't know who he is, and he's trying to basically explain the situation, or at least he was about to, but upon seeing that MJ was injured during the final battle because she was there, and yeah, almost died, but then Andrew Garfield saved her. uh yeah, that was a nice little redemption arc for Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, because obviously if you've seen The Amazing Spider-Man 2, uh, Gwen Stacy dies. So yeah, it's like a nice little redemption story. Um, yeah, back to the cafe scene. Uh, you have as well. yeah, when he sees the injury, Tom Holland is like, oh well, maybe I don't want to have her go through the pain of me being Spider Man and her knowing like who I am. Um, so then he decides no, he's just gonna be by himself, move into a really shitty apartment, make his own suit, and it felt like a fresh beginning. And let's be honest, they're probably gonna make like two or three more of those Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. Um, which would I be happy with? Well, I wouldn't mind if it ended now, really, but obviously at the end, like Tom Hardy's Venom appears in like a post-credit scene, and he leaves behind some of the symbiotes. So like we all know he's gonna become, black suited Spider Man at some point, which will be interesting. But I don't know like how it's gonna go. Uh, but I can imagine a theory in which this could mean that all of Tom Holland's ties with the whole MCU, like this could be it for him, and he's just gonna be in his own universe that's like separate from all that. So we might not get any more references to other, like, you know, like I don't know, the Hulk or Thor or anything like that. Which is I mean, we don't know if that's gonna be the case, but yeah. While I do like the ending to that extent, there's also stuff like, the relationships we've seen in like, the last 5 years that he's built up, like in real life, like 5 years, um, basically going down the drain now. But still, like, yeah, that's why I'm saying it's bittersweet because, to just have him be completely forgotten like that, it seems like 5 years wasted, of like his relationships with like all the people and the characters he's been with. So yeah, like it's weird. Is the film good? Well, yeah, I've said it. I like the film. I don't know. I'd give it probably. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, it's good. I'd give it a solid like 8 out of 10, 4 stars, whatever. Um, yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling now. That is Spider-Man: No Way Home. Um, if you like the video, leave it a like. Comment what other videos I could do next. I do plan on doing another one, uh, later on. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy.